Well, Busch Stadium in St. Louis is where the Mets are, and in most cities when the Mets try to get from their hotel to the ballpark, it involves a bus or some kind of public transportation. Not here. Mets stay right across the street, and they're right into the ballpark and ready for action. At Busch Stadium in St. Louis, Missouri, the New York Mets play the St. Louis Cardinals. New York Mets baseball on SNY is brought to you by the Lexus NX Turbo and Hybrid. Go beyond utility. By the Better Network, Verizon. Better matters. By Geico, the #1 insurer in the New York market. By Toyota, the annual clearance event is going on now. Toyota, let's go places. And by Optimum, presenting Mets games in crystal clear HD. St. Louis, Missouri, outlined by the Gateway Arch, right on the banks of the Mississippi. Ballpark Village across the street from the ballpark, bringing the fans in early. Statuary everywhere as the St. Louis Cardinals are great at celebrating their history. And a pleasant good evening, everybody, and welcome to Busch Stadium. I'm Gary Cohen. Ron Darling joins me in just a moment as the Mets continue their three-game series against the St. Louis Cardinals. The Mets won last night to narrow their deficit in the National League wildcard race to 3.5 games behind St. Louis, and it wasn't easy. John Neese taken out in the first inning with knee pain. He's going to undergo surgery tomorrow, probably out for the rest of the year. Robert Gsellman, who was the hero of last night's game for the Mets, will go into Neese's spot in the rotation. But the Mets needed plenty of offense as well in their 7-4 victory, and on this road trip that's seen the Mets go 4-4, they're averaging 5.5 runs per game, well above their norm. Last night, one of the heroes was Justin Riano, who hit his second home run as a Met, and Justin standing by on the field with Steve Gelb. Steve?
Thanks a lot, Gary. Justin, you have gotten off to a really nice start here with the Mets. When you go to a new team, you've been on a lot of different teams. Just how critical is it to get off to a good start to feel comfortable?
You know, it definitely helps. This is obviously not my first rodeo as far as joining a new team late in the year. So I kind of knew what to expect. The excitement definitely helps. You know, the pennant chase and all that definitely helps. You know, the motivation throughout the end of the year. I know some teams right now are completely out of it, and that makes it hard to play. So, you know, we're playing for a lot right now, and that's the most important thing is playing to win these games.
You said this isn't your first rodeo joining a team late in the season. Do you have anything that you've learned over the years in terms of not just on the field, but in the clubhouse that you do to get comfortable in a new clubhouse quickly?
Yeah, you hit a grand slam off of Madison Bumgarner. That'll kind of
work
things up a little bit.
That'll work. Listen, Justin, you know, you are clearly on this team. You have a clear role that you're here to hit against lefties. When you know that for the most part, that's all you're going to see, do you prepare any differently?
I'm sorry, what? Do I prepare?
Do you prepare any differently when you know that lefties are who you're going to see?
No, actually, I prefer right-handed batting practice. You know, it helps me stay close, stay on the ball. And I think that just allows me to stay on lefties better, you know, especially the changeup that tends to drift away from you. So, no, I don't do anything differently. I prepare, and, you know, if I do face a righty in the game, I'm ready for that as well.
How do you prepare differently on a day like today where you're coming off the bench versus a day that you're starting?
The only difference is I may take less swings, and then during the game, I usually warm up about the 4th or 5th inning.
Justin Riano, he sharing the tricks of the trade. Hit a grand slam off of Madison Bumgarner. Feel comfortable with your new team, Justin. Appreciate the time. Gary, back up to you.
That's one of the great answers of all time, how to win friends and influence people. But, you know, thinking about Ruggiano, there have been so many spare parts for the Mets, whether it's Ruggiano or James Loney or Jose Reyes coming back from suspension, or the kid who pitched last night, Robert Gsellman, or Seth Lugo. If the Mets are going to make the postseason this year, a lot of those bit players are going to have had a big role.
You're right, Gary, but first, Ruggiano's my newest favorite player, a Met with a sense of humor. Unbelievable. I think think you're right. When we look at last night's game, I think it's really a microcosm of what they're going to have to do the rest of the season. Jonathan Neese goes down, a Gazelman comes out, he pitches great. Jim Henderson pitched great last night with a strikeout of Jed Jerko. He hadn't pitched since June 18th, so the bullpen did their job with Familia, get his 42nd save. Reyes and Cabrera each had 3 hits in the 1 and 2 hole. That really got things started. Wilmer Flores continues to kill left-handed pitching. So they're doing all the little things that they have needed to do so far, especially the bullpen.
You know, when the season began, the game plan for this team was to run out dominant starting pitching every day and get enough offense to win. The game plan is flipped from that original 5 that the Mets expected to have in the rotation this time of year. You have only Jacob deGrom and Noah Syndergaard. deGrom gets the start tonight, and these starts for those guys have now been magnified.
You know, I hate to put a lot of pressure on them, but I'm going to do it. I think really what they have to do going down the stretch, Syndergaard and deGrom, is that they have to, this is hard to do, take it up a notch. They're going to have to be 7 or more innings every start, very much like Syndergaard had in San Francisco. If they do that, then I think on those 3 days where they don't know who's starting, they can score their runs. But on the 2 days the Syndergaard and deGrom pitch for the Mets through September, they've got to win.
And in deGrom's case, he's got to bounce back tonight from one of the worst starts of his career. He gave up 8 runs and 13 hits over 5 innings in the loss to Madison Bumgarner and the Giants.
You know, his last 2 starts that he has lost, he has given up 23 hits in 8 2/3 innings. It was one of those games. Asked Terry Collins, who said because most of his pitches were down the middle. It happens even to the best of them. But when I've seen great pitchers have bad games, you know what happens in their next start? They usually rebound with a great game. I expect that from deGrom tonight.
And the last time deGrom faced the Cardinals last year at Citi Field, 8 innings, 1 hit, 11 strikeouts. He'd rather have a game like that tonight. Meanwhile, Carlos Martinez, whom the Mets saw in New York last month, a shaky 5 innings for a win, but the best Cardinal starting pitcher this year.
Well, this is the issue for the Mets. Is deGrom, it seems like, goes up against the best starter for the other team almost each and every 5th day. Carlos Martinez is that, and he's one of those guys that can have a deGrom game also.
So it's deGrom and the Mets looking for their 4th straight win. Met fans have made their way to St. Louis for Game 2 of this series as the Mets try to inch closer in the wild card. Mets and Cardinals coming up on SNY.
of the gang. He was just as good as he said he was and had no qualms about holding out for more money.
No, I haven't signed my contract this year yet, and don't expect to unless the Cardinals pay me $50,000. If I'm worth $400,000 to the ball club, I'm at least worth $50 to myself.
For 3 years, Old Diz dominated the National League, and his admirers came from all over. In fact, he even had a fan in baseball's most legendary figure, who might have been the only player more popular.
Dizzy Dean, they tell me that you're dizzy, but if I could throw a ball like you, I'd like to be as dizzy as you are. This is for your All-American. Pleasure to pick you on the team. Thank you.
One of the unique personalities in baseball history, Dizzy Dean, part of the Gas House Gang who won the 1934 World Series.
How about the Brook Brothers thing on the tee box? No polo, straight with the Oxford.
Dizzy, of course, had a great career as a broadcaster after his playing days in his own unique style. New York Mets baseball on SNY is brought to you by New York 811. Be sure you call 811 before you start any digging project, big or small. Make the 811 call. By the State Farm agent of the game, Gil Walton of the Bronx. Contact Gil at gilwalton.net. And by New York Community Bank and the NYCB family of banks. Get to Citi Field this Friday, August 26th for Free Shirt Friday when the Mets play the Phillies at 7:10. All fans in attendance will receive a Yoenis Cespedes t-shirt courtesy of United Healthcare. For tickets, visit Mets.com/Free Shirt Fridays. Tonight's Cold Hard Facts brought to you by Clean Crisp Coors Light. This is the strength of schedule for the teams that are in the National League wildcard race. The Mets have the easiest schedule among the 7 teams listed there. The Pirates and Cardinals have the 2 more difficult schedules. So perhaps the Mets should be on top of that list rather than on the bottom.
Well, the only issue, though, is the Mets have played about .500 ball against teams that are under .500. They're going to have to get better than that.
Well, there are the numbers so far this year. 27 and 28 against teams who are currently below .500. So for the Mets to take advantage of that lighter schedule coming down the last 37 games of the year, they will have to improve on that. Mets and Cardinals. Mets looking for their 4th straight win. First pitch is coming right up. To the mound for his 24th start of the year. Martinez has pitched much better on the road, but he's got a big game in front of him tonight here at Busch Stadium. Here's the Mets Geico starting lineup tonight, and with the right-hander on the mound, the left-handed contingent in there. That means Curtis Granderson, it means Kelly Johnson, it means James Loney, all of whom sat last night, will be in the lineup tonight against Carlos Martinez.
Well, this young man, you see his numbers on the season. Good ERA, good numbers, the Toyota numbers. The whip is great. He also keeps the ball down. Lots of change-ups, and he gets a lot of double play balls.
First pitch fastball in for a strike to Reyes, and we're underway. Jose Reyes 3 for 4 last night. He's been a real catalyst at the top of the order. In the month of August, Reyes is hitting .357, so he's been every bit what the Mets were hoping when they picked him up, gave him a shot. Good off-speed pitch by Martinez, 1-2.
That was nasty. This young man is going to be a star in this game. He isn't already.
Slap toward third, waiting on it. Peralta, the quick throw on a hop, and just in time to get Reyes. Thought maybe Peralta had waited too long, but got it there in time to get Reyes for the first out of the night.
Yeah, what a nice play by Carpenter. First, Reyes on a tough pitch just puts it in play. And a little shift was on, so backhanded by Peralta, and on the one hop, in between hop, Carpenter, who played second base last night, adept at first also.
For Carpenter, his 10th start at first base this year, and as you can see, that it was in plenty of time as he bailed and wailed.
I do have to say his head came out.
Yes, it
so
did.
It wasn't all total.
It worked. Let's just put it that way. Curtis Granderson takes a strike. Curtis had one at bat last night. Last 27 games, Curtis is hitting .173. And he takes one the other way and just foul.
Well, defensively for the Cardinals, it really is about, from last night, everyone changing position. Moss played first, he's in left. Grichuk and Piscotty are in their positions. In the infield, it's changed also. Peralta's in his position, but Jerko's moved from short to second. Garcia's in for the first time. Carpenter for second to first base. And oh yeah, Molina, he always catches.
Granderson hits a comebacker. And that's the second out. Now Yoenis Cespedes will bat with 2 out. Martinez very difficult to get to in the first inning. The batting average against Martinez in the first inning this season is .173.
Yeah. Well, Martinez is the kind of pitcher, when things are going well, there's nobody who can run it out as quick as he can. He can retire 13, 14 in a row. But when he gets in some trouble, it's a little bit of a hothead, and he can get mad at his fielders, his catcher, even umpires.
Cespedes had 2 hits last night. 7 for 17 since returning from the disabled list with 3 home runs.
Puerto Plata, beautiful place in the world.
Chopper to shortstop, backing off as Garcia for the long throw in time to get Cespedes. 3 ground ball outs for Martinez in a 1-2-3 opening inning. Jacob deGrom takes the mound when we come back. Carpenter was dropped to the 3-hole for a couple of weeks after Matt Holliday got hurt, back in his more familiar leadoff spot where he has thrived this year. Brandon Moss leading the Cardinal team in home run, a Cardinal team that leads the National League in home run.
One of the joys of doing these games for me is when this young man takes the mound. You see his numbers. One loss should be much better than it is. His ERA is 7th in Major League Baseball. Strike out the bases on balls, almost 4.5. Can do it all.
Carpenter takes up and away. Carpenter 1 for 4 last night. Carpenter missed considerable time with an oblique injury, but still having himself a terrific year. On base percentage over 400, 4th in the National League beginning the night. And Mike Matheny was asked before the game why he moved Carpenter back up into the leadoff spot, and he said, well, eventually Carpenter would have produced the same way in the 3-hole that he was in the #1 spot, but right now they need him to do what he does best, and that's get on base to start rallies rather than drive runs in.
I found it very interesting last night against Jonathan Nice. He did not step out of the box. He did not collect dirt and rub it in his hands. To me, it's almost like he is trying to slow DeGrom down. Very interesting.
Well, you need dirt when you don't have batting gloves.
It's true.
1-2 from DeGrom, and he sells one. 2-2. Jed Jerko on deck, and then Brandon Moss for the Cardinals. To start the night, a game and a half in front of Miami in the National League wild card race. Now 3 games out of the Pirates, who lost this afternoon, and 3.5 over the Mets. And Carpenter tries to hold and stopped it in time. Mike Winters, the third base umpire, says he stopped it.
I asked a couple of umpires that I know. I asked them, what do they do when they're the third base or first base umpire in that? And they say they look to see if the hitter offers. Does he offer at the pitch? If he does, they call a strike.
Carpenter gets one in the air to right field, pretty deep. Back goes Bruce to the warning track, back at the wall, and it's out of here. Matt Carpenter with a leadoff home run. 16th of the year for Carpenter. Back in his familiar spot at the top of the batting order, and Carpenter gives the Cardinals the early lead.
Well, I guess the non-call on the check swing became huge. Got another pitch to hit, and Carpenter is not really a home run hitter, but has enough power. Hits it out of the ballpark.
And Jerko drives one to center field, but Granderson is right there, and he makes the catch for the first out. So DeGrom, who got hit very hard in San Francisco in that last start, gives up 2 hard hit balls to start his night.
And this is not the way you want to start, but Carpenter just has a little bit of an uppercut for a guy who's a 300+ hitter, but he has a great eye, one of the best eyes in the game.
Now Brandon Moss, who is a home run hitter, 23 home runs this year, best home run rate in Major League Baseball. Moss has had a home run every 12.7 at bats. Doesn't have enough at bats to qualify, but if he did, that would be the best in the majors. With Carpenter's home run, the Cardinals have now homered in 13 straight games. They've hit 175 home runs this season, the most in the National League.
That's right. They had one last night. Randall Grichuk.
So an uneven start here for DeGrom. Now he's behind on Moss 2-0 with Stephen Piscotty on deck. And there's a good slider to get his first strike on Moss.
DeGrom has some new spikes, featuring some new spikes today. When's the best time to change spikes? After you've had a bad start. Good looking.
And knee-high strike, 2-2 to Moss. Well, DeGrom's issue in San Francisco wasn't his velocity. He was throwing hard enough. It wasn't his strike throwing. He was throwing enough strikes. It was his command of his fastball, which was in the middle of the zone all night. Moss checks a swing, and he went around. So Carpenter got the call going his way. Moss on a similar check swing gets punched out.
And I'll tell you right now, I thought Moss did not swing and that Carpenter did. And that's shows you how mercurial it can be for umpires at third base.
So 2 out and nobody on after the Carpenter home run. And here's Stephen Piscotty, who was a very hard 1 for 5 last night. Had a base hit his last time up, but he hit 3 balls very hard. Had a home run taken away on a leaping grab by Cespedes, who also made a shoestring catch against him. There's Mike Winters, the crew chief, working at third base. It's the killer M's on this crew. Mike, Marty, Mark, and Mike.
Mike Winters had a good game behind the plate last night.
Fastball thrown by Piscotty, and it's 0-2. Well, the last time DeGrom faced the Cardinals last year in May at Citi Field, he gave up 1 hit in 8 innings. That hit came in the first inning off the bat of Matt Carpenter.
Defensively for the Mets this evening, Cespedes, Granderson in center, and Jay Bruce. 1,141 games in center field for Granderson. Reyes, Cabrera, Johnson, and Loney, and Travis d'Arnaud behind the plate.
0-2 to Piscotty, and he hits a ground ball right at Kelly Johnson. That retires the side, but Matt Carpenter gets the Cardinals off to a fast start. Carpenter's 16th home run of the year. Will that be the only hit DeGrom allows in this game? 1-0 Cardinals. You're only one tonight, we promise. Tweet us at SNYTV. Which of these non-mainstream sports did you most enjoy watching during the Olympics? Archery, synchronized swimming, team handball, or table tennis? Jay Bruce leading off in the second inning against Carlos Martinez. What if you never watched any of the Olympics? Are you allowed to participate? Because I don't know what percentage of our audience that would comprise, but I know that was my Olympic viewing experience. I didn't watch for 30 seconds.
I watched two things. I watched the floor exercise.
Little flare by Bruce that may fall in beyond the reach of Peralta. Bruce is going to take a turn and get to second with a bloop double. Well, maybe that's what it'll take to get Jay Bruce out of his slump. He was hitting 158 as a Met when he came to the plate, and he hits a little duck snort into left field for 2 bases.
Well, you take him any way you can get him. He's struggling right now. You know that. He's 12 for 76, now 13 for 77. Just out of the reach of Peralta because they had a shift on. I found it interesting when he got to second, no smile. You could just, the tension is almost palpable with Bruce right now. So hopefully he has a big night.
By the way, with Bruce hitting 158 through his first 20 games as a Met, coming into tonight, Elias was kind enough to provide us with some other numbers for the first 20 games of Met careers, like Tommy Agee, who was hitting 111 through his first 20 games as a Met, and Howard Johnson, who was hitting 127 through his first 20 games as a Met.
Wow.
There's James Loney. And he flies one along the left field line, a long run for Moss, and he gets there for the first out of the inning.
Well, what I thought was funny is that Bruce had the same numbers, exact same numbers, 12 for 76, that Felix Millan had. Exact same. So going back to the Twitter poll, I only watched 2 things. I watched the floor exercises where Simone Biles was unbelievable, came in first, and Raceman, as Terry Collins going out to see if anything's wrong with Jay Bruce.
Now the trainer Ray Ramirez coming out along with him, and looks like Bruce is coming out of this game. Can you believe this? Looking down, Terry is at Bruce's leg.
He's got a little giddy up in his step there.
So Alejandro De Aza will come in, and so Jay Bruce gets himself a bloop double and immediately has to come out of the game because of an apparent injury.
Well, I apologize that I did not catch this at home, folks, but I did not see anything from Jay that indicated that he hurt himself. Now he makes the turn. He knows he's going to get 2. He did slow up there, but that could have been a slow up because he knew he had the second base easily.
Yeah, there's nothing in that video that gives you any idea what happened to him.
And you know what's interesting is that I said he didn't have a smile on his face after getting that kind of hit. That's why. He felt something.
So Bruce is out of the game. Alejandro De Aza is running for him. We'll find out as soon as we can what has befallen Jay Bruce. Meanwhile, Asdrubal Cabrera, who had 3 hits last night, will try and get De Aza home with a tying run. And he pulls one toward the gap in right center field. That'll go all the way back toward the warning track. De Aza will score. Cabrera's got himself another double, and the Mets have tied the game at 1. You talk about a guy who hit the ground running coming off the disabled list. Asdrubal Cabrera just locked in right now from both sides of the plate.
Where he's really been adept is that ball middle of the plate in. He has been very quick. It's almost like the time he had off has really rejuvenated him and given him some extra strength and quickness as he produces the first run for the Mets.
2 doubles last night among his 3 hits, and a double his first time up tonight. Now Kelly Johnson with Cabrera at second and 1 out. And he fouls one off Molina. 0-1.
You know, Martinez, 3 outs in the first inning were all ground balls. Nothing on the ground this inning. He is a guy, if he's balls on the ground, he is effective. But if you start getting the ball in the air against him, that's when you can do some damage.
He had such a strange performance against the Mets last month in that doubleheader game at Citi Field. Remember, there was nobody in the ballpark, and he was just all over the place.
And he got the win, of all things, going 5 innings.
106 pitches, 4 walks, grounded down to third, and Peralta throws out Johnson for the second out. So we're going to move to the second part of our Toyota Twitter poll. Tweet us at SNYTV. So here are your 4 new choices: water polo, badminton, fencing, canoe slalom. Is that actually a thing?
Is that one that? But isn't that more like a kayak where they're going through the gates? I guess it's a canoe.
You.
So I would add.
The truck says it may well be a kayak. They have no idea. So they watched about as much as I did.
It's so non-mainstream they don't even know it.
Here's Travis d'Arnaud and takes a curveball high. d'Arnaud 1 for 4 last night. 11 hits in his last 26 at bats. That's a .423 clip. Maybe time to abandon ship from the kayak, slalom, and the rest of those minor sports.
Oh, with the Twitter poll, is that what you're saying?
All 10 people have responded. Fastball strike, 1-1 to d'Arnaud. Well, that might be of much more interest to our viewers. The National League wildcard standings. Pirates lost this afternoon. They've lost 5 of 6 after falling to the Astros, so the Mets can reel in the Pirates with a win tonight. d'Arnaud hits one off the thumbs down to first base, and Carpenter makes the flip to Martinez to retire the side. Mets lose Jay Bruce to injury, but Cabrera's double ties the game at 1. On the broadcast, we completely blew it. On the architectural provenance of the Gateway Arch. We credited it to I.M. Pei. He was a great architect in his own right, but I.M. Pei did not design the Gateway Arch. That was Eero Saarinen.
Well, it's my fault 100% because I was told by someone I went to school with, college, that told me that many years ago. And I'm talking about 30 plus years ago. So it's totally my fault because I've been doing and calling that the arch that was designed by Pei forever. And it was Eero Saarinen, although Eero did pass away prematurely, and it was 2 of his architects that finished the project in the 60s.
So mea culpa, mea maxima culpa.
Listen,
you know, we do get a lot of stuff wrong over the course of 162 games.
Right? It's like at least 1 or 2 a day. You guys can do the over and under at home.
We try and keep the number down, but you know, it's live TV. Alejandro De Aza, after pinch running, stays in the game in center field. Curtis Granderson moves over to right. We'll get word on Jay Bruce as soon as we can. By the way, if you were watching last night, you saw in the first inning with Yoenis Cespedes made that shoestring catch against Piscotty, and then he was flexing his quad and banging his fist on his quad. And we paid a lot of attention to Cespedes for the rest of the game, and he looked okay. And, I asked Terry Collins today. He said, what did you make of Cespedes? He said, I didn't make anything of it. I didn't. Nobody on the bench felt as though there was any problem there. So, and as it turned out, he legged out an infield hit later in the game. Molina flicks one down the right field line, and that'll land untouched. And then he made the leaping catch at the wall later in the game. So clearly he was okay.
So we thought something had happened to Cespedes last night. It was nothing. We didn't think anything happened to Bruce today, and it was something. So we're doing pretty good.
Well, architects, injuries.
Canoe, slalom. We'll try to get that right at some point.
2-2 to Molina, who had 3 hits last night. Molina against the Mets this year, 7 hits in 13 at bats. He's now hitting .314 lifetime against the Mets, which I guess it won't surprise you is his highest batting average against any team.
He's had a blessed life against the orange and blue.
7th pitch of the at bat, and Molina hits this one out to right field. Hit well, chasing Granderson away back. It's over his head and off the wall. Molina heads to second, and in standing with a leadoff double. Yadier Molina continues to cause pain for the New York Mets.
You know what's interesting about Molina at this point in his career is that he has much more power to right and right center field than he does to left field. You almost have to play him opposite that you would play a normal right-handed hitter, because that is his power. Can't run anymore. That's not his fault. He's squatted 100,000 times, but he gets himself a double.
So for the 2nd straight inning, DeGrom gives up a leadoff extra base hit. Now Johnny Peralta. And he takes low and away for ball 1. By the way, when Matt Carpenter led off the 1st inning with a home run against Jacob DeGrom, it was the first time that DeGrom had given up a 1st inning run since the middle of May. 17 straight starts he had put up a 0 in the 1st inning before Carpenter's home run. There goes Molina. DeGrom steps off, and Reyes tags Molina out. That was weird. Molina left so early, it gave DeGrom plenty of chance to step off and get the out.
Well, you can pick your customer. There's some pitchers that will freak out and not know what to do. You're talking about a guy who's top of the food chain defensive pitcher. He knows exactly what you have to do. You step off, you throw it to Reyes. It's an easy out. Bad mistake by usually a very heady player.
We saw Molina make a base running mistake in New York too, didn't we?
Base running mistake in New York. We saw him bounce a ball to third base last night in the 1st inning with Reyes stealing third.
Well, it certainly is a benefit to DeGrom, who's still trying to find himself tonight, to erase a leadoff double. 2nd time Molina's been caught stealing this year.
When you're pitching and someone does that after they lead off with a double, you just think to yourself, thank you very much.
Peralta fouls back the fastball, and it's 2-2.
Just early, I don't know if it feels the same way. It feels the same way as it did in San Francisco. Some healthy cuts so far early against DeGrom.
Well, they hit balls hard all night against him during that start. He gave up 13 hits in 5 innings. Just off the corner. And yet, even with that pounding, he's still 5th in the National League in ERA. Kyle Hendricks, who pitched another gem for the Cubs today in their win over San Diego, has taken over the lead with Clayton Kershaw dropping out of the rankings. Doesn't have enough innings anymore.
Hendricks 12 wins now here in, what would you call it, late August?
Yeah.
3rd week of August?
Later than you think.
Yeah.
3-2 to Peralta, and he chases for strike 3. 2nd strikeout for DeGrom, and the 2nd out of the inning.
Well, the 2-2 pitch was a strike. It wasn't called by home plate umpire McClinsky. but Peralta made up for it by chasing this ball that cut on the outside corner of the plate.
So 2 out and nobody on. Now Randall Grichuk, who homered last night. Grichuk now with 16 home runs for the year, and as we talked about last night, has become an all or nothing hitter after a much more productive rookie season.
To me, it almost seems as though the scouting plan is such. You know that the Cardinals love the first pitch fastball hit. That's most teams anyway. But they also can do some damage because we mentioned the home runs. 175, Gary, you said home runs so far this year. But you can't get into the mode when you're as good as Jacob deGrom, where it's a slider every single pitch, first pitch. Your strength is your fastball. Just make sure that you're precise with it.
Breaking ball drilled to deep left center field. Back goes De Aza deep in the gap, and it's off the wall. And Grichuk into second base with a 2-out double. And how huge does that base running mistake by Molina look now? So 3 extra base hits from the first 7 batters against Jacob deGrom. And Grichuk got all over this. And deGrom fortunate that that ball didn't leave the ballpark. So Grichuk, who had a home run last night, now his 19th double of the year. And the Mets are going to pitch to the number 8 hitter Greg Garcia, with the pitcher Martinez on deck and first base open. Martinez not a bad hitter. And Garcia drills one into right field for a base hit. Grichuk turns third. Granderson's thrown to the plate. Not in. Oh, he got him. He got him on the back. d'Arnaud able to make the tag on the sliding Grichuk. Mike Matheny almost certainly is going to challenge this call. But home plate umpire Mike McClinsky is saying d'Arnaud got the tag down on the strong throw by Granderson from right field. And we'll wait and see.
Well, that was a great job by Grandy. He really charged this ball, got the momentum going, and had a one-hop strike to d'Arnaud. I don't think he got him from this angle, but it'll be interesting to see here if he gets the numbers on him.
And the Cardinals are not challenging, so he did get him on the back, swiped his number 15 before the hand hit the plate. Great tag by d'Arnaud. Terrific throw by Granderson. It's probably the best throw Grandy's made all year. And it keeps this game tied. 2 doubles and a single in that inning, and the Cardinals do not score. Jacob deGrom hits a comebacker to start the 3rd inning. Let's go back to the play at the plate that got DeGrom through the last half inning.
Well, every team takes advantage of Curtis Granderson because I don't think he can throw. He has trouble throwing. But Travis d'Arnaud really turned that into a great play, just swiping the back of the jersey of Grichuk. And good call by Mike McClinsky at home plate. That was not easy, but you know what made it great? Look at his position. He's in a nice position to see that glove hit the back of Grichuk's jersey.
What an unusual inning. DeGrom faced 4 batters, gave up 2 doubles and a single, and no runs. How's that even possible?
There's the tag that we're talking about. And you know what? What's interesting about that play is that Grichuk, when he got up and ran to the bench, he did not argue it at all. So he knew, he felt the glove on his back.
But you know the strange thing about that? As Reyes pops one up in foul ground. Peralta to the railing, and Molina as well, but they can't get to it. Is that d'Arnaud made the tag, but then continued to try and make a second tag.
Yeah, that was a mistake by him.
Which kind of made you think that maybe he didn't make contact on the initial tag, or at least he had concern about it.
See that netting? That netting's been added this season to try to protect the fans. So Molina might have had a chance to make that catch if not for that, to protect those 2 little guys right there.
Of course, the recommendations for Major League Baseball were that every team extend the netting to the ends of the dugout, the far end of the dugout. Some teams have done that, many have not. Reyes chases a changeup for strike 3. First strikeout for Martinez.
Gary, to answer your question, though, is interesting. I think what happens for a catcher is when you make the tag, even if you made it, you're not sure what the umpire's call is going to be. So if he were to call him safe, you want to continue and maybe try to tag him again if he didn't tag the plate.
Probably so. Yeah. It's just that in terms of selling it,
looks bad.
Right. And I guess that matters less now with replay than it probably did in the past.
That's right.
Because now it's the actual tag that's going to matter rather than the selling of the tag.
I remember a day when catchers were taught to tag with their glove, hand holding the ball, and take the ball out as they tagged.
Granderson grounds out. Martinez has a 1-2-3 inning, and we stay tied at 1 going to the bottom of the 3rd. Combo offer in select seating areas during all remaining Mets home games. Tickets start at just $19 and include a $10 food and beverage credit, so you can cheer on the Mets while enjoying your favorite Coca-Cola products. Tickets for this offer are only available at Mets.com/combo. Poll number 1, Toyota Twitter poll. Non-mainstream sports, what did you enjoy? Team handball.
Only in New York would handball come number 1, right?
Except that they don't play team handball in New York.
Exactly.
It's a very different kind of handball. Although I will say this, from what everybody has told me, and I actually played a little team handball in high school. It was like in the gym sport.
Yeah.
If the United States ever tried to field a team handball team, they'd be the best in the world. You know, if it was actually something that people gravitated toward in this country because of the types of athletes that are produced here.
Well, I think once they go to the replay, it's going to become a really, really amazing sport, amazing game.
1-2 to Carlos Martinez, who has 10 hits this year. By the way, Jay Bruce left the game with what they're calling a cramp in his right calf, and they're saying it was for precautionary reasons.
It's an interesting thing. It to me, to leave a ball game after you just scored a double, two things have to happen. It has to be really kind of more serious than they're mentioning, or two, you've had it before and you know exactly what has happened.
Rolled out to shortstop. Cabrera throws out the jogging Martinez for the first out. Martinez had no interest in running out that grounder.
Just looks bad. You know, all you pitchers out there, professional pitchers, whatever. I mean, is it too much to ask? Just do your 5 seconds down to first base. It's not a big deal. This just looks awful.
I mean, if the shortstop bobbles the ball or throws it away.
I mean, just run down there. It's a nice little jog. It looks good to the fans, and the young kids out there are going to go, Dad, how come he doesn't run the first?
Matt Carpenter opened the game with a home run for the Cardinals. Third leadoff home run this year and the 12th of his major league career. And he takes a strike, 1-1. The Marlins just broke up a scoreless duel. Dylan G and Jose Fernandez were scoreless into the bottom of the 6th, but the Marlins got 3 off Dylan in the 6th.
Marlins are in Miami with Fernandez pitching. Not good. Although he has struggled his last 3 starts.
Yeah, he's been a little more vulnerable in his home ballpark. T-Mobile greater coverage of baseball. The Royals tonight were trying for their 10th straight win. Still 4 games back in the wild card going into the day.
There's a toughness about that Kansas City Royal team. Always has been the last couple of seasons.
Greater coverage of baseball brought to you by T-Mobile. Well, it was interesting. I was looking at somebody ran the Royals bullpen numbers this year, and they were extraordinary every month of the season except for July, when they were like the worst in baseball. And Carpenter chases the high fastball, and DeGrom has his 3rd strikeout of the night. And you know, July was a terrible month for the Royals. They went 7-19, the worst month that any defending World Series champion had ever had.
Well, if you look at the 2 strengths of the Royals, what is it? They're 2-strike hitting. They don't strike out a lot, and 2, they just ruin you in the last 3 innings of games, and they didn't do that in July.
And they're back to it now, but is it too late? We'll see. Here's Jerko, who lined out to center field his first time up. 2 out and nobody on. 1-1 game in the 3rd. And DeGrom pours one over. Change up, 0-1.
I was watching Jerko in warm-ups. Prodigious shots he was hitting. Lots of power.
He was a bargain basement pickup for the Cardinals. They traded John Jay, whom they looked at as superfluous, to the Padres to get Jerko, and the Padres are playing most of Jerko's salary. So it's turned out to be a win-win for St. Louis. Jerko's got 20 home runs, 13 since the All-Star break, which ties him for the most in the National League since the break.
Keith set a stat last night, 18 of his 20 against right-handed pitching.
2-2 to Jerko.
So DeGrom has thrown changeup, slider, 2 changeups to Jerko in this at bat.
Two coming, and he lines one the other way, a base hit. First fastball of the sequence, and Jerko has a 2-strike hit.
Have you noticed though where the location of this fastball is? Remember early in the year when Jacob wasn't pitching as well? His ball was up. He wasn't managing that outside knee-high fastball, which he was perfect at the last, before San Francisco.
Well, he's talked a lot about maintaining his line to the plate and how that has been an issue for him at times. Now Brandon Moss with a runner at first and 2 out. Moss struck out his first time up. Threw that fastball by him. Jacob deGrom made his debut a little over 2 years ago. Won Rookie of the Year that season in 2014. A memorable All-Star appearance last year. 5th in the National League ERA this year. Moss lines a base hit. Jerko to second. He's going to take the turn and try for third, and Piazza will let him go. So back-to-back 2-out hits for Jerko and Moss, and the Cardinals have runners at the corners with 2 out.
Just we're not used to seeing deGrom giving up this many hits. I mean, his ball jams Moss just a little bit. He's one of the stronger hitters in the league, but still humpback liner to center field.
So 6 hits now against deGrom, who gave up 13 hits in 5 innings in his last start. And he's got a big out to get against Stephen Piscotty. The Cardinals last night had lots of chances to overcome an early deficit. They wound up leaving 11 runners on base and going 2 for 10 with runners in scoring position. But the Cardinals have the best number in the league hitting with 2 outs and runners in scoring position. Doesn't sound like much, but they're hitting .250 in 2-out RBI situations, which is the best in the National League.
Gary, 250 is great, and it's a backbreaker for a pitcher. You know, if it hadn't been for Granderson's throwing out of Randall Grichuk, I mean, that would have been another 2-out hit for an RBI. So it's a backbreaker. Here you got deGrom. He's in the 3rd inning. This is an out he's got to get. You know, one of the half dozen that you have to get to have a good game.
And Piscotty takes the changeup high, and it's 2-0. So on his last start, deGrom was able to sidestep big trouble in the first 3 innings against the Giants, and then the roof caved in on him in the 4th. Well, here he got a couple of real breaks in the 2nd inning. Molina a base running mistake. Granderson throwing out Grichuk at the plate. And now it's more trouble to try and work around here in the 3rd. Behind on Piscotty, 2-0. And a 2-0 curveball in for a strike.
Some pitchers, when they don't have it, Gary, from the start, as a manager or pitching coach, you go, oh no, we have to make sure we get someone ready in the bullpen. It's different with deGrom, because many times he doesn't have it early, and somehow he just guts his way through it. He's going to have to do it tonight here early.
Jerko at 3rd, Moss at first with 2 out. And Piscotty bangs one off his leg, a foul ball. 2-2.
So a steady diet of changeups and breaking pitches those last couple of innings. The only fastball that he's been able to use effectively was the strikeout of Matt Carpenter.
That was up and out of the strike zone. He's worked his way back to 2-2 on Piscotty. Went up and away, did not get the half swing. And another full count. So now Loney tells deGrom he'll play behind Moss at first base. He'll be running with 3-2 and 2 out. Three-two coming. Grounded Down to third, backhanded by Reyes. The long throw is not in time, and a run comes home. 2-1 St. Louis. Piscotty beats out the infield hit to get a run in.
Well, some 2-out lightning here by the Cardinals. Really what happens here, Reyes is going to make this play, but watch his right spike. See how it slipped? Once it slipped, he could not get enough on the baseball to get him out at first base. I think if it doesn't slip, he gets that great arm and produces enough to get Piscotty at first base, but it wasn't even close.
By the way, Jed Jerko, the runner at third, looked like he was walking from third to home. I wonder if Reyes, I don't know how he could have possibly known to do it, had gone that way if he would have had a play. Watch Jerko.
Yeah, he's watching the play. He's watching the play.
If Reyes throws home, he gets him. But how could he possibly know that?
No, he can't assume that Jerko is going to be a fan. But bad base running by Jerko.
So 3 straight 2-out hits produce a run. And it's 2-1 St. Louis. Now Yadier Molina, who banged one off the wall in right field for a double and then promptly ran himself out, taking off far too early, and DeGrom threw him out of third base. Moss now at second, Piscotty at first. 7 hits now against DeGrom. And that's grounded to Kelly Johnson. And that retires the side, but those 3 straight 2-out hits give the Cardinals the lead. One time Molina doesn't get a hit against the Mets. I think he expected to. 2-1 Cardinals after 3. Watch every out-of-market game live in HD on over 400 supported devices. MLB.TV Premium includes a free subscription to At-Bat Premium. Blackout and other restrictions apply. Visit MLB.TV for details. Did we mention we had another Twitter poll about minor sports?
I think we should do one an inning. We're on a roll.
Well, team handball's already a big winner. Yoenis Cespedes bats. Carlos Martinez now with a 2-1 lead. Cespedes takes a big rip and fouls back the changeup. There's the second Toyota Twitter poll of the night, and water polo is the big winner in this one over the specious canoe slalom. Water polo is great if you could actually see what was going on underneath the water, which is where all the action is.
Well, sometimes they shoot that.
But you know, sometimes you see stuff that you're not supposed to see.
That's right. Or hear stuff like you're not supposed to hear, like this broadcast.
Cespedes almost falls over with that swing. Cespedes grounded out to short his first time up. Alejandro De Aza on deck, and then James Loney for the Mets in the fourth. Cardinals took the lead in the first. Mets immediately tied it against Martinez in the second. Now the Cardinals have regained the lead. Now Martinez looking for a shutdown inning this time. Cespedes bloops one foul. The last time the Mets faced Carlos Martinez in this ballpark, he pitched the last 4 innings of the Mets' 18-inning win here last July. He was the losing pitcher in that game.
I just remember number 17 became a little impatient as the game wore on.
He was trending that day. Cespedes fouls off another one. He was reacting mostly to the fact that the Mets began that game by going 0 for their first 24 with runners in scoring position. Wow. Now the script has flipped the last few days. Mets were 5 for 10 with runners in scoring position last night. So perhaps the worm is turning. 1-2 to Cespedes.
Well, I think that's what made the Mets so exciting those last 2 months, is that they combined very good pitching with just Cespedes in the game. It was fun to watch.
Well, that's the other thing about the Mets' chances coming down the stretch this year. As Cespedes golfs one out to right center, and Grichuk comes over to get it one away. The Mets hitting with runners in scoring position has been so historically bad this year that there's been a feeling that at some point that the odds have to even out a little bit, and eventually they'd get some big hits.
Well, it's interesting. What I hear most of the time from Terry and his coaching staff is that, the back of the baseball card plays, and these guys are not this historically bad. At some point, someone's going to have to pay for this. You just hope it happens sooner than later. It's this is the time where they have to go.
Oh, they've dug themselves a big enough hole that there's still a lot to dig out of. Here's De Aza, his first at bat since taking over for Jay Bruce, who left the game with a cramp in his right calf. And De Aza lifts one to left. Moss barely has to move, and that's the second out. So Martinez is now retired 7 in a row. We said the numbers have been getting better, and they have on this road trip. Mets are hitting over 300 with runners in scoring position. They had been down to 204 before this trip, now up to 212. Still by far the lowest figure in the league, so there's still some climbing to go. The Mets overall on this road trip have hit 309, and in the first 8 games scored 44 runs, which is 5.5 runs per game, which is well above their norm.
And with all of that, 4-4 on this trip.
Well, it started out so badly.
Yeah.
Loney takes a fastball for a strike. Final game of this series tomorrow. Seth Lugo will make his second start. He was certainly very efficient in his first one against the Giants. Adam Wainwright, who's had an up and down year, goes to the Cardinals. And we were having this conversation before the game today. If the Cardinals wind up in the wild card game and they can fix their rotation the way they want it, whom would you choose on the Cardinals staff to pitch that game? Loney lifts one to center field. Maybe we'll talk about that when we come back from break. Grichuk is there to grab it. 3 fly ball outs for Martinez, who's now retired 8 in a row. He gets his shutdown inning. Cardinals lead 2-1 in the fourth. Johnny Peralta leading off the home 4th inning. Peralta struck out his first time up. It'll be Peralta, Grichuk, and Garcia 6, 7, and 8 in the order. Cardinals leading 2-1 against DeGrom, who's given up 7 hits over the first 3 innings. If you go back to his last start in San Francisco, DeGrom has now given up 20 hits to the last 41 batters he's faced.
That's just an astounding number for a pitcher of his quality.
That is non-DeGrominant.
Chris Maloney, a third base coach, opted not to catch that foul ball. Good choice by you, Chris. Now Jose Oquendo, usually the third base coach, he could have made that play.
Got to know which ones you can get. Got to know when to hold them and when to fold them.
Yes.
So we've been keeping our eye on the Marlins, who lead Kansas City 3-0 in the 8th. Good news, bad news for Miami. Good news, looks like they've just acquired Jeff Francoeur from the Braves. Bad news, Jose Fernandez just came off the field grabbing his calf after finishing the 7th inning. Fly ball out to center. Piazza has room. Peralta retired, 1 out. Let's check in with Steve Gelbs. His report tonight is brought to you by the Kia Top Quality Sales Event. Steve?
Gary, one of the reasons Jacob deGrom has been able to be so successful in his career is that plush changeup. And we all know the story that when deGrom was rehabbing in Port St. Lucie from Tommy John surgery, Johan Santana taught him the grip, taught him how to throw the changeup. But deGrom was saying recently that it was beyond just teaching the grip of the changeup. Santana also taught him how to have confidence throwing the changeup. And what deGrom said is that early on, Santana told him to start throwing the changeup during long toss from 150 feet, 180 feet, 200 feet. And in the beginning, deGrom was throwing that pitch and he was reaching his intended target. That's how he knew he wasn't quite there yet. Eventually, once that grip really started to feel comfortable and the motion started to feel comfortable, deGrom was unable to reach his target. And that's where Santana said, "You've now perfected it, go use it."
The zen of the changeup.
Wow.
Hit deep to right center field. Back goes Granderson, takes a look, and it's out of here. Randall Grichuk has struck again. Grichuk's second home run of the series, his 17th of the year, makes it 3-1 St. Louis.
That's now 21 hits in the last 43 batters faced. The human muscle known as Randall Grichuk has tremendous power to all fields and hits with this one out to right center.
Remember when we first saw Grichuk in New York last year and he had that 4 strikeout game and then came back the next day and had what, 4 extra base hits?
Yes, he did. The extension he gets, see how when he makes contact, he's got that kind of backspin on the baseball. The hitters talk about that. That's how you get the ball to carry.
Garcia takes out of the strike zone, 2-0. Garcia had a base hit on the first pitch he saw in the 2nd inning. Grichuk tried to score from second base, and Granderson threw him out at the plate.
You know, the game plan for deGrom, and I'll ask him, not tomorrow, the day after. You always want to wait a day. Seems like it was to come out and make sure that you establish your breaking ball against this good Cardinal offense. But what he's done, he's now in the 4th inning, and he hasn't established his fastball, his best pitch. And I mean establish it knees, corners, where you get an almost automatic strike because he throws so hard.
Garcia's on with a walk. First walk given up by deGrom. So back-to-back troubling outings for Jake. I mean, he had gone 9 starts before the one in San Francisco with a cumulative ERA of 1.49. But now for a second straight time, he's just not right. And the Mets just can't afford for deGrom to be not right.
Yeah, you can't afford for him to be going through any kind of dog days. You see his jersey from the waist up is completely saturated with sweat. here in a more humid evening than it was last night.
90 degrees at game time tonight. So now Martinez, the batter, he grounded out his first time up, and he's going to give himself up. And now pull it back. Runner goes. Hit and run play. Johnson boots the backhand, and everybody's safe. Well, he told you from the outset that Martinez is a good hitter, and Mike Matheny plays hit and run with him, and Johnson boots it.
The play was made more difficult because Johnson was leaning to covering first on the bunt. He didn't. He held his position, and look, the runner, Greg Garcia, played a shield here against Johnson. That made it just a little more difficult, and that's why it handcuffed Johnson for the error. I'm assuming it's an error.
Oh no, come on. They gave him credit for a hit.
Well,
come on. It's a joke.
It's a homer.
No, it's a joke. That shouldn't be allowed. That's a flat out error. Come on. It's Major League Baseball.
Exactly. You got to make that play.
Here's Carpenter with 2 on and 1 out. And Carpenter takes a curveball for a strike.
Well, these 2 at bats here, the difference between DeGrom staying around and trying to fight through this and give the Mets a chance, or the Cardinals trying to blow this out.
Garcia at second, Martinez at first with 1 out. Carpenter homered to lead off the first inning. 2 home runs against DeGrom tonight. He stays with the curveball. Carpenter held the swing, and it's 1-1. Well, remember that the Mets needed to get 8 2/3 innings out of their bullpen last night, which leaves them a little shy in this game. And even though DeGrom is in a big struggle right now, there's no action in the Mets bullpen. Carpenter fouls one at the plate, 1-2. Cardinals start the ninth, 3rd in the National League in runs scored, 1st in home runs.
As Darno goes out to speak to DeGrom, I think Darno might have caught that foul tip. The Mets have held back Hansel Robles from last night's ball game. He's one of the few pitchers out there that could give him some length.
And they called up Eric Goodell today. Goodell rejoined the team after being sent down over the weekend. Never actually pitched down in Vegas for the day and a half he was there. Came in on the red eye this morning after John Neese was placed on the disabled list. So Goodell should be fresh. Well, there's not a lot to work with down there after Gesellman went 3 2/3 and Smoker went 2 last night. 1-2 coming, and Carpenter takes low and in. 2-2.
Surprised they wouldn't try to elevate another fastball. That worked the last time against Carpenter.
Jerko waiting on deck. Two coming, and the curveball hit hard, but right to Loney, and he'll get the double play. Now that's a break that DeGrom could really use, an unassisted double play to end the inning. Loney snags it, and the Mets turn 2, 3-1 Cardinals.
Yankees and the Cardinals in the day would have a lot of minor league teams and would load up on some of the greatest players in the country.
This was the Cardinals who invented the farm system.
Right.
Look at that. Other than strike shortened seasons, the Cardinals have not had back-to-back losing seasons since the 1950s.
Oh.
That's extraordinary.
Extraordinary.
And it really speaks to the consistency with which they have been able to have success. Here's Asdrubal Cabrera leading off in the 5th inning against Carlos Martinez. Cabrera drove in the Mets run with a double in the 2nd, and since then Martinez has retired 8 in a row and now has a 3-1 lead.
There's really no rhyme or reason to Martinez. It's pretty simple against left-handers. He's going to rush you in with the fastball, counter with a slider that's going to be down and in also, and when he wants to get you out, he'll throw the changeup away and down.
Oh, and he throws 96.
No doubt too.
Bounces that curveball, and it's 1-2. Now, Carlos Martinez, just 24 years old, going tonight for his 30th big league win. When the Cardinals first called him up in 2013, he worked out of the bullpen. He almost hit Cabrera.
He's 29-19 in his career, and Mr. DeGrom is 30-20 in his career.
Well, here's Martinez working in the 5th inning. He's thrown 45 pitches. Why? Well, this is his first 2-ball count of the night, and now his first 3-ball count of the night.
I said it before. He can walk through a lineup when he's on.
Last time the Mets faced him, he walked 4 batters in 5 innings. 3-2 to Cabrera, and he strikes him out for the first out of the inning. Second strikeout of the night for Martinez.
Loves his 3-2 changeup, especially against the left-handers. Look at that grip. About 10 miles an hour slower, and Cabrera out in front. You have to respect the 96, and when you get the 86, that's what the swing looks like.
That's why they called him Young Pedro. That was his hero growing up, and you know, he had a lot of company with Pedro Martinez as his idol. One to Kelly Johnson.
You have a lot of young pitchers in baseball. Your Danny Ventura, of course, for the Kansas City Royals. Martinez here, influenced by Pedro, the great Pedro, who in his best, at his best, had the 3 best pitches in the league. His fastball is as good as anyone, breaking ball is good, and changeup probably one of the best the game's ever seen.
Johnson grounded out his first time up, and he pulls that one into right field for a base hit. So he got on the fastball and snaps the string of 9 in a row retired by Martinez. The Mets' 3rd hit of the night.
Well, sometimes you get ahead. Martinez, Molina wanted that ball higher in the strike zone, and that ball was middle, and Johnson all over it. He don't save very much because Kelly's been around the block. He's got a beautiful swing.
Now Travis d'Arnaud, who grounded out to the first baseman his first time up. Well, Jacob deGrom is out on deck. There's no warm-up action in the Mets bullpen, so clearly, regardless of how Jake is pitching right now, Terry Collins needs him to get deeper into this game. He certainly has not pitched well tonight. He's gotten some breaks. Runner thrown out at the plate. Molina with a base running blunder, a line drive double play. Otherwise, the 3-1 score could be far worse.
These are the times that if you're a pitcher who can help himself, you can keep yourself in a ball game. And Jacob sure can do that.
That's really right, a double-edged sword right now when it comes to making decisions like that, right?
Yeah.
Breaking ball in, and Darno is out on strikes. Third strikeout for Martinez. I mean, these games are of utmost importance. You're facing the team that you're trying to run down in the standings. You only have 37 games to go, but at the same time, your pitching staff is really short right now.
Gary, but if you can't do it with DeGrom and Syndergaard, those are the two guys that you have to ride, because the other three guys, and I'll even throw Bartolo in there. Bartolo usually gives you 6+ innings. So let's throw those three guys in. But the other 2 days are, you don't know what you're going to get. So you have to make sure that your bullpen is ready to go on those 2 days. So when DeGrom and Syndergaard pitch, they've got to be pushed.
So tomorrow you've got Seth Lugo going. That's lined into center field, and DeGrom has a base hit. That's his 6th hit of the season, and the Mets have the tying runs on base with 2 out.
Got a fastball away, maybe a changeup. Never throw a changeup to a pitcher. It becomes like a fastball, but bullet by DeGrom.
So now Martinez will start his 3rd time around the batting order, facing Jose Reyes, who's grounded out and struck out 0 for 2 after a 3-hit night last night. Johnson at second, DeGrom at first with 2 out. Reyes takes a rip at a changeup, 0-1. .98 from Martinez, 1-1.
See, Reyes is wearing the sleeve also. Interesting that Molina going out to speak to Martinez. It's almost like he's his mentor, kind of walks him through the difficult parts of the innings.
Well, we saw Martinez in New York, and it was clear that even though he's a very accomplished pitcher at age 24, he's still got a little growing up to do.
Yeah, and that you know, you see that more often than not. I'm very lucky to have a guy like Molina able to put the fingers down.
So I asked you a couple of innings ago, if the Cardinals were to have a 1-game playoff, would it be Martinez? Would it be Wainwright?
I heard your question. I was hoping to avoid it. I would go with Wainwright to start, and I'd have Martinez in the bullpen ready to go just in case.
Well, both of them have postseason bullpen experience.
Well, I remember Chris Carpenter when he was at almost the end of his career, and he and Roy Halladay hooked up in Philadelphia, and Carpenter bested him 1-0, one of the best games I've ever seen, and Carpenter was almost done.
2-2 to Reyes, and right before that pitch was thrown to Reyes, Randall Grichuk moved from left center field about 20 feet to his left into straightaway center, and now after 2 strikes he's moved back over toward left center.
Very interesting. You would think he would move towards right center if he saw the changeup. That's something more that Reyes would be more apt to pull.
2 out, 2 on, 2-2 to Reyes. And Jose fouls off the fastball.
So fastball in, he's playing to the left of second base. Let's see if the changeup is called if he moves a little bit in center. Can't give that away too early if you're an outfielder. Hitter can see that. What will happen is a center fielder will get some of the signs from a shortstop occasionally. But this is professional athletics at a high level. These guys can see forever.
2015, 2010.
That's right.
Again, the 2-2, and Reyes pounds one on the ground down to first. Carpenter will take it himself. Side retired. Martinez gets out of trouble halfway through, 3-1 St. Louis.
athlete, and he acted like one, never smoking, drinking, or even reading fine print or attending a movie, for fear that it would hurt his batting eye. He receives the Most Valuable Player Award for 1925. A cash prize is presented as part of the award by League President John Heidler and Commissioner Kennesaw Mountain Landis.
Jed Jerko pops up the first pitch at the bottom of the 5th. And as Dribble Cabrera takes charge of it, 1 out. So Rogers Hornsby hit .424 one year, hit over 400 3 times. His jersey's retired, but he played in an era where they didn't have numbers on their jerseys.
That's right.
So his retired jersey is represented amongst the retired numbers for the Cardinals by an STL logo.
They could have put Raja up there.
Well, did you know this? Probably not the most memorable piece of his resume. Rogers Hornsby was a coach on the coaching staff of the 1962 Mets.
Oh, jeez. That had to be his toughest year.
Just say he wasn't in a good mood a lot of that year. Frankie Frisch's quote, the only guy who could hit 350 in the dark.
Career mark 358 was his career average. Wow.
2-2 to Brandon Moss is 1 for 2 tonight. Well, I remember there was an interview with Ty Cobb in the early 1960s. You know, Cobb was what, 350 hitter for his career. And the interviewer asked Cobb, well, what do you think you'd hit against the pitchers today? And Cobb said, well, about 260. And the interviewer said, really, has the pitching gotten that much better? Young man, I'm 73 years old.
Exactly. Exactly. Cyrus.
Whoa. It's the shade too high. And a full count to Moss. And DeGrom just continuing to struggle.
It's those kinds of pitches that just show that he is a little lost right now.
Three and 2 to Moss with Piscotty on deck. And Moss lines a base hit, his second of the night. That is 10 hits for the Cardinals against DeGrom, who gave up 13 in his last start. Sunday at Mets Insider, Nimmo, Conforto, Reynolds, Kelly, Rivera get an inside look at the players who become frequent flyers on the Vegas shuttle on Mets Insider, presented by W.B. Mason, Sunday at 4:30, only on SNY.
Well, Moss, he's got quite a powerful swing. That ball is a good pitch. The reason he was able to handle it, Jacob deGrom usually dictates the at-bats. When you get to 3-2 and you have to throw a fastball, it's in the hitter's hands.
Piscotty drives one to deep left field. Cespedes goes back, takes a look, but that's gone. Stephen Piscotty adds a 2-run homer. And the Cardinals putting the hammer down on Jacob deGrom. It's now 5-1.
Well, Jake has never been able to establish getting that slider on the outside part of the plate to the right-handed hitters. Left this one on the inside part, and Piscotty jumped all over it.
19th of the year for Piscotty. He's got 3 RBIs tonight. And Cespedes, who robbed him of a home run last night, didn't have arms long enough for that one. 5 runs and 11 hits for the Cardinals tonight. That's hit sharply. Johnson gets in front of it and throws out Molina for the second out.
See the grip. The ball let go too early. It gets that big dot as it comes to the plate. Hitters, when they see that big dot, they know it's a breaking pitch. The bigger the dot, the less it breaks. It's almost like it sits on a tee, waiting for the hitter to hit it.
Now Peralta. 13 runs and 24 hits against Jacob deGrom. Over 9 2/3 innings in his last 2 starts.
You know, I watched the game with San Francisco. I'm watching the game here tonight, Gary. Nothing done on the inside part of the plate. Here he's coming inside, but see, he misses away. Watch when it comes. See the dot? It almost is just spinning there. That's what the hitter sees, and that makes his eyes big.
That's lined to left center field, and Peralta adds a base hit. So the hits just keep coming for the Cardinals. That's going to get their bullpen up now, trying to coax deGrom through this 5th, but can hardly expect any more.
Just a slider. Take that back. That was supposed to be a fastball in. It ended up being a fastball away because he could not hit his spot.
The difference tonight versus San Francisco is that deGrom, in addition to everything else, doesn't have his best velocity. His fastball's coming at 93. 12 hits now for St. Louis, and now Grichuk, who has a double and a home run already tonight. I mentioned that there's Eric Adell just back from the Las Vegas shuttle. First man up in the Mets bullpen tonight.
Sleep tomorrow. Sleep tonight.
He said his red eye got in early enough that he got some sleep today.
Oh, good.
He's young. I think Eric, of course, is happy to be back here, but also back in time for the possibility of facing his brother this weekend.
That's right.
He said he's never played with or against his brother on any level because Tyler's 4 years younger. Peralta at first and 2 out, 1-1 to Grichuk. We mentioned earlier that Grichuk has been an all or nothing hitter. How about this? 12 of Grichuk's last 13 hits are for extra bases. 39 of his 71 hits this year have been extra base hits. Lays off the slider, and now it's 3-1.
That outside corner, which deGrom, when he's styling, owns, doesn't miss a spot out there. Hasn't come close most of the night.
Final in Miami, the Marlins shut out the Royals tonight 3-0, snapping the Royals' 9-game winning streak. So Miami, which started the night a game and a half behind St. Louis, posts a victory. We'll say Fernandez gets his 13th win, but left holding his calf after 7 innings. So that bears watching. 3-2 now to Grichuk. Well, those are the season marks for deGrom. Started the night 5th in the league in ERA, dropping a spot after his last outing in San Francisco and struggling again tonight. Peralta gets set to run. 3-2 to Grichuk, and it's outside, ball 4. So now 2 men on, and here comes Terry Collins, and that's going to be all for deGrom. Trying to get him through this 5th inning, but Jake just doesn't have it for the 2nd straight start. And Terry will pull the plug at 94 pitches and 4 2/3 innings. Hasn't been pretty for deGrom on this road trip. 2 starts in San Francisco and St. Louis. He has been hit very hard in both. deGrom exits. Goodell coming in. Call to the bullpen brought to you by Verizon. Jacob deGrom on this road trip.
Well, I've been there. It's nothing worse than down the pennant stretch in a championship season when you're counted on to not come through. It's a bad feeling.
And he knows how much his starts mean right now. Eric Adell back from Vegas after a brief stopover in Nevada. Actually never made it to Nevada. He was in Tacoma for a day and a half before he got the call last night, facing Greg Garcia, whom he promptly falls behind 2-0. I mean, deGrom knows that Harvey's gone and Matz is on the DL and Wheeler's not coming back this year, and how much he and Syndergaard are needed. So it's not a matter of lack of understanding or effort. It's just not happening for him right now.
Gary, this over the course of the season, I'm going to use 30 because that seems to be the number. There's 10 starts that you're going to style. It doesn't matter who you're facing. When you're a pitcher of the abilities of deGrom, you're going to dictate that game and win it. There's going to be 10 where your stuff is uneven, but you're able to figure it out. And then there's going to be 10 that are just sometimes not the way you want them to be. The problem is you can't have that time right now.
Two and two to Garcia, who's singled and walked. Goodell has had a monstrous road trip, and I don't mean that in a good way. His last outing in San Francisco Friday night, first batter he faced, Connor Gillespie, hit a home run to help put that game away. He's given up home runs in each of his last 2 outings, and has really been struggling lately after a really nice stretch where his splitter was working and he was getting people out. So a lot of work over the last couple of weeks. Now a full count to Garcia.
Well, I think that's why you've seen so many changes with the Mets. Interchangeable parts with some of these young pitchers from Las Vegas is because they're running out of gas. And traveling across the country, having to be in every game. If you're not in every game with the Mets, you feel like you're going to be in,
3-2, and Garcia fouls one off. Well, it certainly doesn't help to have the Mets AAA team where it is, and with all the AAA affiliation contracts expiring this year, the Mets would love to have an affiliate further east, but not sure if that's available. And they may be stuck in Vegas for another couple of years. And that's no knock on the folks in Vegas. It's just that it's not where the Mets need to have their AAA team.
No, the people in Vegas do a fantastic job.
Just that it's caused so much disruption every time the Mets need to send a player down or bring him back. And Garcia draws a walk, and now the bases are loaded.
The problem you have, Gary, is that if you have lockdown 7th, 8th, and 9th innings like the Royals have had, like the Yankees had earlier this year with their all-stars, that's one thing. But what you've done is that you've mitigated the excellence of these starting pitchers by only going 6 innings. So they pitch 2/3 of the game. There's 1/3 responsible for guys that you wouldn't normally want in a game of such importance.
So now the pitcher Martinez bats. He had a hit and run infield hit his last time up. I say hit with quotation marks around it because it certainly should have been an error. Nonetheless, Martinez with a chance to completely blow the doors off this game. Got 11 hits and 4 RBIs this year as the bases loaded and 2 out. Takes a big rip at a splitter, and it's 0-2.
Pitcher falling to one knee on a pitch I throw to him would not be my favorite. Raise my ire a little bit.
Grounded down to third. Reyes will go to first with it. And that retires the side, but the 2-run homer by Stephen Piscotty helps knock out Jacob deGrom and gives the Cards a 5-1 lead after 5. Gateway Arch glistening in the night sky. Sunday on Jets Nation, going to break down of the Jets Week 3 preseason matchup against the Giants, plus all the latest from training camp on Jets Nation Inside Camp. New episode Sunday at 7, only on SNY. Mets down 5-1 as they come to bat in the 6th. Curtis Granderson will lead off against Carlos Martinez. Curtis 0 for 2. He's grounded out both times, and he takes a strike. Granderson hitting second in the order tonight. Cespedes on deck, and then De Aza, who took over for an injured Jay Bruce early in the game. Bruce came out with a cramp in his calf. So this game has not gone well for the Mets on any front.
No.
deGrom getting beat up for a second straight start. Bruce leaving the lineup. Of course, Neil Walker's away for this entire series after the birth of his daughter yesterday.
That's right. Terry Collins said he'll be back on Friday, right?
Yep. And that's outside, ball 4. So Granderson's on with a leadoff walk. First walk of the night given up by Martinez.
The thing about Martinez is that he's all arm. He doesn't do push off, just all from the upper body. I mean, he gets 98 throwing like that, and then holds the pose.
Vogue.
Vogue, yeah. Or the Karate Kid, one or the other.
Cespedes is 0 for 2 tonight, grounded out and flied out. That's about 4 hits against Martinez, who just walked his first batter. And Cespedes is the double play ball right to Garcia. 2 out and nobody on. Time for tonight's Verizon trivia question. Who was the 2000 National League MVP? NLCS MVP.
Okay.
Excuse me. Of course, it was the Mets and Cardinals, which is why we're asking the question. I know the answer.
You do?
Do you know the answer?
I have no idea. I knew the Mets were in it. Did not know the Cardinals were.
Mets beat the Cardinals in 5 games.
I remember the Giants series. All right, I remember that series, but I don't remember the Mets Cardinal series at all.
Well, it was not a particularly memorable series. The Mets thrashed the Cardinals, and there was one game in that series. I'm trying to remember. It might have been maybe the second game, where the Mets had 5 straight doubles to start the game.
Oh, wow.
It was that kind of series. But none of the 5 guys who got the doubles won the MVP. De Aza strikes out. Easy inning for Martinez, his 4th strikeout. 5-1 St. Louis in the 6th. '25th through September the 5th in Syracuse, New York. Home 6th inning. Matt Carpenter leads off against Eric Goodell, who came in to get the final out of the 5th.
Molina pointing to his head to Martinez. Use your head. Can't walk a guy to lead off an inning when you're leading 5-1, but 26th double play that Martinez has gotten this year got him out of that inning.
Carpenter set the tone tonight. He led off the 1st inning with a home run, 12th leadoff home run of his career, and his 16th home run of the season.
Gary, I almost didn't come back for this half inning. I was in the hallway having a conversation with Red Shanedeast.
I can understand that.
Right.
Red is 93.
He's 93 and he's moving a little slower, but boy, his brain is still there.
Great Cardinal player and manager. That's drilled down the right field line. Foul. Final line on Jacob deGrom tonight. 4 2/3 innings, 12 hits, 5 runs, all earned, 2 walks, 3 strikeouts, 3 home runs. That's 13 runs and 25 hits in 9 2/3 innings in his last 2 starts. His next start would be on Monday against the Marlins at Citi Field. And of course, It's another game against a wild card contender.
Yeah. You know, Terry Collins has been asked about moving some of these pitchers around or moving them up and less days rest and all of that. And he said, listen, we're in a position that every single game is important. Doesn't matter who we're playing. Now, of course, the Cardinals and the Marlins are a little more important because you can gain a game.
Down the left field side, Cabrera alone on the left side of the infield, can't catch up with it. With no shift, perhaps a third baseman gets to that ball, but with the shift, nobody in the neighborhood. Well, I mean, you go back to the last 2 weeks, and the Mets losing 5 of 6 games against Arizona. That's the evidence you're pointing to.
Yeah.
And you can't lose these games no matter who you play.
Yeah, you can't. How many games are left, Gary?
37, including tonight.
37, including tonight. So you gotta. That's a 25-12 kind of deal you got to do. You know, that gets you what? 25 gets you to 88. I think that might be the number. 87, 88.
Well, the thing about that is that you look at this wild card chase, and every team has got issues.
Yeah, yeah.
That's in for a call, strike 3, as Goodell gets Carpenter with a curveball for the first out of the inning. Let's check in with the studio. Doug Williams has a game break brought to you by your local Honda dealer. All right, Doug. Meanwhile, the Beltway series has been quite one-sided so far. The Orioles won the 2 games played at Camden Yards from the Nationals, and they're up 10-3 going to the 9th tonight in D.C.
They can mash Baltimore.
I mean, the Nats don't have too much to worry about. They had an 8-game lead coming into the night. Even if they lose tonight, it'll still be 7 over the Marlins. But all of a sudden, they're not playing very well at all, defensively in particular.
Defensively, they're not playing well. Strasburg's out on the DL, so their pitching, especially starting pitching, has not been as good. They're trying to make the transition away from Papelbon, who's been released, or at least DFA'd, to Melanson. And the setup people have not been as good as they wanted.
Tanner Roark gave up 4 runs in the first inning tonight.
Dusty will have some kind of meditation session. They'll figure it out.
I'm sure they will. Of course, the Mets still have 2 more series left with the Nats, including one on the next homestand on Labor Day weekend. 1-2 coming, and Jerko fouls it off. With the Marlins winning tonight, the Nats lead is 7.5, and it's about to be 7 unless they have a huge rally in the 9th inning. Down by 7 runs.
Well, the one good thing about the second wild card is if you're a 500 team when you get to September, you're in some kind of race, but that means that you have to have a September for the ages if you're a 500 team.
And Jerko goes down swinging on the breaking ball. Back-to-back strikeouts for Goodell to start the 6th. Well, some years it works out that way. Last year was different, though. Last year you had 3 teams in the Central who were so good it really aced everybody else out.
Cardinals had 100 wins. Pittsburgh had 98. Cubs 97. I think something like that.
But this year it certainly is a wide open field in both leagues for the 2 wild card slots. Here's Brandon Moss is 2 for 3 tonight. 2 singles to center field. Nice to see Goodell looking a little sharper than he had his last few outings on this road trip. Maybe the trip to Tacoma and back helped clear his head. Maybe a few days off helped too. He was in one stretch where he had pitched 6 times in 9 days, and for a guy who's had a history of elbow problems, that can be problematic.
We're not even talking about the times he warmed up and didn't come in. He's a very frail's the wrong word, tall and lanky. So there's not a lot to him, you know, so having to be out there every day is more difficult on his body than others.
Bounces the splitter in there, 2-1 to Moss.
brother's had a pretty good year in Philadelphia, considering he was a Rule 5 guy. We saw him early. He looked overmatched, but then kind of figured it out a little bit.
I think you can say that about the entire Phillies team.
Yeah.
They're 10 games under 500, but they were predicted to be far worse. That's drilled out to right center field, but Granderson gets over there. And that retires the side. 1-2-3 inning for Goodell in the bottom of the 6th. On to the 7th we go in St. Louis. Mets with some work to do, down 5-1. Downtown St. Louis in the old courthouse. You ever walk through downtown St. Louis?
I have.
It's like a neutron bomb hit. there are no people. There's nobody on the streets. There's no cars. It's very pretty, but nobody there.
I remember in the 80s when we used to come here and play, we used to stay across the street from the Hilton, which you can see here from the stadium. And the entire downtown would be packed with folks with red shirts on. I mean, packed.
Right before the game.
Yeah.
Big hop for Jerko, and he throws out Loney one away. But if you walk in the street at like noon, there are no people. It's very odd. Very odd. Not like any other downtown I've ever been in.
Detroit can be like that sometimes, but I know what you're saying.
Strange for us New Yorkers to walk outside and see nobody.
I know. All I do is bump into people all day.
Here's Asdrubal Cabrera, who drove in the only Met run with a long double to right center back in the 2nd. Struck out in the 5th, 1 for 2 on the night.
I'm still trying to react to the phone zombies that walk into me all day long in New York City. They're looking at their phone. They walk into you. No, excuse me. No, I'm sorry. They just continue to walk. I don't get it.
And the thing is, if they're bumping into you, how many other people are they also bumping into in the course of a day?
I'm just getting old, I guess.
No. Know how to walk with your head up. There's nothing wrong with that. It's not an age thing.
No, I'm getting old as far as my reaction to it. I'm going to knock someone out.
That would be more youthful and impetuous.
Yeah, I guess it would be.
3-0 to Cabrera, and there's ball 4. So Martinez issues his 2nd walk of the night. There's your Jeep Mets box score. Cabrera with the RBI double. Not much else to show for the evening offensively for the Mets, who had averaged 5.5 runs a game through the first 8 games of this trip.
Mets lineup to me seems a little stronger when they face the left-handed pitching, doesn't it?
They do have some people who have killed lefties. I mean, Reyes and Cabrera have been stronger from the right side. Flores has been mashing against lefties. Cespedes has been great against lefties. And the Mets as a team have hit 16 points higher against left-handed pitching than they have against right-handed pitching.
Well, there you go.
But if you have the lineup intact, if Bruce is in there doing what the Mets were hoping that he would, if Walker's here, then you've got a lot more depth to this batting order. But the Mets just haven't been able to keep everybody on the field together since Bruce got here. And Bruce, of course, hasn't hit, and then he comes out of the game tonight with a cramp in his calf, and we'll see how serious that is. Here's Johnson, and Kelly takes a strike.
It's a little bit like '87, isn't it, Gary? 1987, but that year the Mets lost all their pitching. This year, more of their everyday players.
The '87 Mets were like the 2016 Dodgers.
Yeah.
Who have 7 starting pitchers on the disabled list right now. They just put Brett Anderson and Scott Kazmir on yesterday. 7 starting pitchers on the disabled list, and they're still in first place.
Who thought at the beginning of the year that Kenta Maeda might be the savior of that staff?
I mean, Rich Hill is pitching tonight, and he's just getting back to the mound from the world's worst blister.
That's right.
The blister kept him out for what, 3 weeks?
I don't know.
But he's pitching against the Giants tonight, and Johnny Cueto, after the Dodgers won the first game of that series last night. And how about the young guys for the Dodgers? Last night, Rob Segedin hits a homer for the 2nd straight day, leaves the game in the 8th inning, races out of the ballpark, and gets there in time for the birth of his son, their first child, born at 11:30 last night. Now, that's having a day.
The Dodgers have put 27 players on the DL this year. That's a major league record. 27.
It's not over yet. 3-2 to Johnson with d'Arnaud on deck. And Kelly watches wide ball 4, so back-to-back walks issued by Martinez. And now the Mets with a couple of men on with d'Arnaud coming up.
Here comes Derek Lilliquist, the pitching coach for the St. Louis Cardinals. He's going to try to decipher why Martinez would walk 2 hitters with a 4-run lead.
Well, that'll buy some time for the Cardinals bullpen as well. The former Met farmhand Matt Bowman, who's been with the Cardinals all year as a Rule 5 pick, gets up. Well, the final game of the series is tomorrow, and we start an hour earlier tomorrow, 7 o'clock Eastern time for the game, so 6 o'clock for the coverage tomorrow night. As the Mets wrap up this road trip, they'll have Seth Lugo making his 2nd start against Adam Wainwright.
That gets us in a little later, huh? Oh well. Sleep when you're dead. That's how it goes. You know, the one saving grace from Martinez with these mistakes that he makes because of his youth is that he's been so great at getting double play balls. 26th one he had in the last inning.
That's the most in the National League this year. d'Arnaud is 0 for 2 tonight. And Travis, first pitch swinging, grounds one right to the bag. Garcia to Jerko and on to first for another double play. And that retires the side. First pitch, 6-4, 3 double play takes the Mets out of the inning. Still 5-1 St. Louis. question. We asked who was the 2000 NLCS MVP, and of course that was Mike Hampton, who threw 2 victories in that series.
What a year he had, huh?
His only year as a Met before he left for the educational climes of Colorado. Stephen Piscotty leads off in the 7th against Eric Goodell, who's worked an inning and a third already in relief. And he throws the splitter to start off Piscotty, who's had a big night. An RBI infield hit in the 3rd that gave the Cardinals a 2-1 lead. And then a 2-run homer in the 5th inning that made it 5-1 St. Louis. And that one got away, a ball and strike.
I think Piscotty has a real chance, Gary, to be a star in this league. He's a real smart kid. He always has been a great hitter. You know, hitter first, good eye, hitter for a high average, and they were just waiting for that power to come. Well, he's starting to show it.
19 home runs now this season. He's got a good arm in right field. He's a good outfielder. He's got the whole package.
Yes, he does.
Yadier Molina on deck, and Piscotty fouls back the fastball. 2-2. Another rough outing for Jacob deGrom tonight. 4 2/3 innings, 5 runs, 12 hits. I have to verify this with Elias, but I just saw ESPN stats posted that it's the first time in Mets history that a Mets starter has given up 12 or more hits in back-to-back starts.
Really? That's hard to believe.
55 years of Mets history. Hold and just foul. Scotty barely missed another extra base hit. By the way, we mentioned Jose Fernandez came out of his start with the Marlins grabbing his calf, and Marlins are calling it a cramp. So that's 2 cramped calves tonight. One for Jay Bruce, one for Jose Fernandez.
Remember when you were a kid, they told you to take salt tablets when you had cramps?
Well, when we used to play basketball in the summertime outdoors, they'd have us take salt tablets. Struck him out. Good fastball by Goodell. 94 miles an hour for his 3rd strikeout. Well, we were talking about Rogers Hornsby earlier. It showed you some film of him as a Cardinal. Well, we mentioned he was a coach with the 62 Mets. Well, there he is with Gil Hodges in spring training for the 62 Mets.
Wow.
Of course, Gil was a player for the Mets in their first season.
That's where Cespedes last night robbed Piscotty.
That's what Keith said, right at the head of Rogers Hornsby. Right. Molina's 1 for 3, doubled back in the 2nd inning. Goodell's retired 5 in a row since walking his first batter in the 5th inning. And it's just outside the Molina. 1-2. Johnny Peralta on deck. Remember the game in Atlanta last year in September when Murph hit the 3-run homer in the 9th to tie it?
When the relief pitching for the Braves just fell on their flat in their face in that inning.
Mets wound up winning that game in extra innings. That's drilled into left field, and Cespedes will play it barehanded on the hop. And Molina's got his 2nd hit of the night. That was a Cespedes play all the way. Nonchalant, down to a knee, reach over your head, grab it with your bare hand.
Remember last night he robbed Piscotty on a similar ball, but knew he couldn't get to that one. And he does things that I don't know if I've ever seen anyone else do who plays the outfield.
That's all him right there.
He's just got a flair for the over dramatic.
Yeah, but I worry about that quad because he's grimacing again, and the Mets downplayed it after last night when he was flexing and banging the quad. He's kneeling down now. There's something going on.
Yeah, of course
with that
there
quad.
is. They just don't want to talk about it, and I understand that.
Here's Peralta, and that is in for a strike.
Had a lot of topspin, so he had to break it on down. So on one knee, don't use your leather, just use the bare hand.
And now he's flexing that leg again out in the outfield. It's clearly an issue, and how much of an issue and how much it's going to affect him going forward, who knows. Peralta smacks one to deep right field. Granderson back to the track, looking up, and it's off the base of the wall. Molina to third. He's being waved around as Granderson has trouble picking it up. Trying for third is Peralta. He'll make it safely. A triple for Peralta adds a run, and it's 6-1 St. Louis.
Well, Johnny Peralta was signed because of his hitting prowess and the ability to hit that off the base of the wall. Took a kind of a funny hop on Curtis Granderson, and that's the reason really that Yadier Molina was able to score. Ball bounced away from Granderson. Chris Maloney sends Molina with the 6th run.
And that's going to be all for Eric Adell. Terry Collins comes out. He'll make a double switch. So the Mets now down 6-1 in the bottom of the 7th. As Goodell gives up back-to-back hits to Molina and Peralta that produce a run after having retired 5 straight. Pitching change in St. Louis. We'll be right back. That's double switch. CJ Rivera will come in to play second base. He'll bat 9th. And Hansel Robles, the only Met reliever who didn't work last night, will come in to pitch.
Yeah, really held last night out of the game because in case of a situation like this where they needed a little length, Goodell did a nice job despite giving up that run there with the hit by Peralta. And now Robles in to get the final outs.
A rough go for Robles lately. Last outing Saturday night in San Francisco, faced 3 batters, walked 2 of the 3, and they both came around to score. He'll come in to face Randall Grichuk with a runner at third and 1 out. Grichuk's already doubled, homered, and walked tonight. Peralta's RBI triple, plating a run here in the 7th. He's at third with 1 out, and the infield comes in. And the breaking ball inside to Grichuk. Anyway, I mentioned the Murph homer in Atlanta last year because
3-run bomb, right?
Because the Nats facing the Orioles today were down 10-3 going to the bottom of the 9th, and Murph hit a grand slam. And they just added another run against Zach Britton, which I believe is the first earned run he's given up in his last 44 outings.
That's right.
And it's now 10-8 with the tying run at the plate.
Now, I don't remember Murph hitting a grand slam as a Met.
That was his first.
Oh, it was first.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he had fallen out of the batting lead coming into the day, you know, because he went 0 for 4 last night. Fell behind DJ LeMahieu, but I presume he has it back now. Here's the 1-1. That's fouled back. 1-2 to Grichuk.
I think when you get to Washington in the middle of September, they're going to be chanting MVP when he comes to the plate.
Every chance of that. Well, they'd get an argument in Chicago for a couple of their guys. One-two from Robles, and Grichuk goes after the up and in fastball, and Robles fans the first man to face him, the second out of the inning.
Good pitching. Get ahead. The ball's supposed to be away. He just ran it up and in. Robles really is from the school of precise is second. How hard he throws is first. Just lets it go.
So now Greg Garcia with 2 out and a runner at third. Garcia's been on base 3 straight times with a single and 2 walks. Cardinals have 14 hits tonight. And remember, early in this game, you had Molina break early for third and get tagged out. You had Grichuk thrown out at the plate on Granderson's throw after Garcia had a base hit. You had a line drive double play take them out of a chance in the 4th inning. So the Cardinals have 6 runs in this game, and the Mets are fortunate that they don't have a whole lot more.
Yeah, it could have been worse, right? Cardinals in last night's game, I think, left 11 on base.
Robles ahead 0-2, and Garcia fouls back the fastball. In the red hot American League East, Toronto lost tonight to the Angels 8-2. The Angels snapped an 11-game road losing streak, their longest since 1969. So Boston with a chance to take a 1-game lead. They're 3-3 in the 11th with Tampa Bay.
69. The Bo Belinsky days.
They were the Los Angeles Angels. No, maybe they
a little
were
later.
Maybe they were California Angels by then.
Yeah.
Now the 0-2, and that's off the corner. 1-2 to Garcia. '69 feels more like the George Burnett Angels days.
Yeah.
Bobby Knopp.
Bobby Knopp. Yeah.
Jim Fregosi. Maybe Vic Power was an Angel then. 1-2 coming. And a little dribbler foul. Oh, Rick Reichert.
Oh, you're so good. Well, I think you're good.
Albie Pearson. I mean, it's somewhere in that era anyway. Let's just say they weren't very good that year, and they're not very good this year. Although Trout and Pujols both homered tonight. Garcia keeps the at-bat alive. Carlos Martinez is on deck, so it looks like he's going to continue on. He's at 86 pitches through 7 innings, so why not? It's now a final in Washington. Britton held on, and the Orioles beat the Nats 10-8, but Britton's streak of not allowing an earned run since, what was it, April? Or was it April 30th?
That's right. I was going to say the beginning of May, but it's the end of April.
So that ended as he gave up the last of those 8 Washington runs. Inside to Garcia. So the Orioles are now just a game behind Toronto, and depending on what the Red Sox do, will be either 1 or 2 games behind Boston. The Orioles have taken 3 of the first 4 in that Beltway series from the Nats, and the Nats have now lost 4 in a row. So their lead over Miami shrinks to 7 games in the East. 8th pitch of the at bat coming to Garcia, and he lines one into right field. Granderson will have to play it on the hop, and that'll bring in another run. Peralta trots in to score. A terrific turn at bat for Garcia, who's been on base 4 times tonight, and the Cardinals keep tacking on. It's now 7-1.
I'd like to know what the numbers are that Garcia has had against the Mets in the games played this season. Fastball away, off the end of the bat, drops it in front of Granderson.
So both the runs in this inning are charged to Goodell. And now Carlos Martinez will get his 4th at bat. As a starting pitcher these days, if you get 4 at bats in a game, you know you've had a good day.
Well, the one thing about Carlos Martinez that is a little different.
Smothered by Cabrera, but he has no play. And Martinez has his 2nd infield hit of the night.
Similar play that last night Cabrera was able to come up with and flip the ball to TJ Rivera, but this one hits him in the heel of the glove and never could get back to it in time. I was thinking about Martinez, Gary, as opposed to the Mets power pitchers whose strikeouts are so important in their game. Ground balls are more important to him, so he ends up staying in the games a little longer.
So Martinez with his 2nd hit. 7 different Cardinals have 2 hits tonight. They have 16 hits in all. Now it's Carpenter, whose home run started the whole thing, leading off the 1st inning, 1 for 4 tonight.
It's like, bravo, bravo.
Yeah. First one should have been an error. Anyway.
That's right. Howie Carpenter would have called that an error.
Oh, any legit scorer would have. It's a routine ground ball. And Carpenter pops one up. Cabrera getting under it. And that retires the side, but the Cardinals tack on 2 and lead at 7-1 after 7. hit tonight. We go to the 8th inning here in St. Louis. Carlos Martinez continues on into the 8th. Mets will have T.J. Rivera leading off. So after the Mets got themselves a hard-fought win last night, it's been all St. Louis tonight. Jacob deGrom taking it on the chin, and Carlos Martinez, who had his velocity drop in his last start. It was interesting because he pitched. His numbers were very good in Houston his last time out. 7 innings, 3 hits, 1 run, 7 strikeouts. But they pulled him after 79 pitches. And his average fastball velocity in that game was just 92.3. Now compare that to his start in New York a month ago when he was at 96.6. That's a 4.5-mile-an-hour difference. But tonight his velocity has been back up and he's pitched very well.
Not at 96 though. He's been more around the 94 area, 95.
DJ Rivera rolls one out to short, and it's booted by Garcia. And the Mets have a leadoff base runner. Don't suppose to score that a hit, do you?
Met hit it.
Well, the Cardinal defense has been subpar this year. They've now made 87 errors, the second most in the league, and that only begins to tell the story. Watch the Cardinals, and you know they are missing a few pieces right now, but they just don't have a lot of guys who cover ground on this team.
Well, the last year they won on pitching and defense. They won 100 ball games.
Reyes flies one to shallow right. Piscotty hustling in. And now the throw back to first, and Rivera goes back in standing.
Boy, he's lucky because they had him.
Better throw, and he's out.
They just don't have a lot of speed in the outfield. So this play, which is a can of corn, Piscotty has the hustle to get in. If he got anything on this throw, Rivera could have been out at first base. But they don't have a lot of speed in the outfield. I said before about their defense. Moss, who played first base, is in left field. Garcia didn't play. He's at short. Johnny Peralta, who's always been a shortstop, signed as a shortstop, is at third base. Matt Carpenter, who played second base, is at first. So in this game of versatility, every team loves it. I questioned it only because it seems like we're putting a lot of players in positions where they really can't play.
Granderson cracks one to center, but Grichuk is right there. And that's the second out. Drive around the majors presented by Chevy. 7 scoreless innings for Jose Fernandez as the Marlins snap the Royals' 9-game winning streak. Milwaukee beat Colorado this afternoon. Ryan Braun hit 2 home runs in that game. Manny Machado, 4 hits, 4 RBIs, and the Orioles held off the Nats 10-8 to win 3 in a row in that series. They can clinch a 4-game sweep tomorrow night in D.C. Here's Cespedes, who's 0 for 3 tonight.
Just letting Martinez know there. That's why he stepped off the mound, that Carpenter's going to play behind T.J. Rivera at first base.
And that one gets behind Molina, and that'll get Rivera to second. Never used to see those kinds of plays with Molina, but you know he's getting a little older.
If you watch him catch, he kind of has a little 45-degree angle. Remember, we used to talk about that with Josh Tolley with the knuckleball by Dickey. I think he does that to take some of the stress off his knees, and he just doesn't reach to his right as well as he used to.
He's one of the last 8 Gold Gloves in the National League, but he's 34 years old now. Breaking ball by Martinez, and that one drilled Molina.
It's going to be an interesting case when Yadier retires at some point, when they start talking about his Hall of Fame credentials. He got that right under the armpit, it looked like.
You know, the thing about Yadi is that he's very much like Ozzie Smith was, in
Yes.
that he's always been known for his defense, but has become a better offensive player over the course of his career.
You know, a couple world championships. You know, I mean, he's the best catcher of his generation defensively by far.
And he's now, I think he's now a lifetime 280 hitter. So doesn't have the big power numbers that some of the better offensive catchers have had, but I think he's certainly a solid Hall of Fame candidate.
Well, I think is it this year or next year? Pudge Rodriguez is going to be on the ballot, and that'll be an interesting.
That's a tough case right there.
They're all tough from that era.
I mean, there have been PED allegations against Pudge, so that certainly factors in. I mean, absent that, he's a surefire Hall of Famer. Full count, not a Cespedes. By the way, speaking of future Hall of Famers, Adrian Beltre had the game-winning hit for Texas today in their win over Cincinnati.
Only his 2900th hit.
I mean, he's
in.
He's guaranteed.
Guaranteed. Started as a 19-year-old with the Dodgers.
Cespedes goes after a bad pitch and strikes out. Fifth strikeout for Martinez tonight. He works around the leadoff error. 7-1 going to the bottom of the eighth. Straight really awful start for Jacob deGrom. Meanwhile, Carlos Martinez, another strong outing tonight. 8 innings, 1 run, 4 hits, and he would appear to be done. That's your "I'm done" hug.
I know guys hug a lot now. I never know what's it for.
Jed Churko leads off in the bottom of the 8th against Hansel Robles. With the Mets short in the bullpen tonight, even with deGrom going out early, looks like Terry Collins will be able to limit his usage to 2 guys out of that pen. Goodell an inning and 2/3, and now trying to get the same out of Robles and leave everybody else fresh for tomorrow's series finale, with Seth Lugo making his second start. And as efficient as Lugo was in that first one in San Francisco, you just don't know what you're going to get tomorrow. That's lined up the middle. Another base hit. Second of the night for Jerko, and the 17th for the Cardinals.
Robles was a little afraid that ball was going to come up the middle. Watch his reaction. Out of Dodge.
There's something off with him right now. He had such a good stretch for 6 or 7 weeks there.
You know, Gary, I think that like a lot of guys in this bullpen, they're running on fumes. They really are.
Moss pops on a mile high, and Darnell coming back near the screen, but it goes out of play. Well, you know, you've talked a lot, and the Mets have talked a lot about protecting their young starting pitchers, which, you know, despite the injuries along the way, they've done a pretty good job of. The problem is that puts so much more pressure on the bullpen.
Well, I think coming into the season, you know, you expected at this point to have the 5 pitchers on a roll every single night, and that would mean 6 2/3, 7 2/3. Those kind of efforts where really you would only have to go to 2 relievers every night. Occasionally you're going to have the blow up where you have to use your whole bullpen. But it seems to me that, boy, 2 or 3 times every 5 or 6 days you're going to the bullpen for 6 and 7 guys. What did the Mets use last night? 7? Now that's an unusual situation because John Neese only lasted a third of an inning, but that there's 2 things that work there, folks. One is the physical part of it, the warming up, having to come in the game, having to get outs. Okay, that's part of your job and what you're supposed to do. But because the way the game is played today, every single day that those guys go out in the bullpen, they have the agita, the feeling that they're going to be in a ball game. They never can go out there and say, boy, so and so's pitching tonight, I'm probably going to have the day off.
Right, he's going to go 9. Darnell with enough room this time to make the catch, and Moss is retired for the first out.
It just doesn't happen, and it's just such an important part of the game for relief pitchers to be able to have a day where they mentally can shut down and have their seeds and relax. And in fact, a radical situation maybe someday might be the way they use bullpens now and the mitigating of the talent of the starting pitchers. You might have to have an A squad and a B squad. On Monday, the A squad pitches in relief, and on the next day, the B squad pitches, and pitchers will never pitch back to back unless they absolutely have to. You might have to do something like that just for these guys to relax a bit.
Piscotty laces one into left field for his 3rd hit of the night. Jerko pulls in at second. That's 18 St. Louis hits.
Cardinals are making it look easy tonight. Every mistake the Mets pitchers have made has been a linea from the St. Louis Cardinals. And Piscotty has been, even though he took an 0 for last night, or maybe he had a hit, probably the most impressive batter of the last 2 days.
Now Yadier Molina, who has 2 hits tonight, a single and a double. Mets 1 run, 4 hits. The Cardinals 7 runs and 18 hits. Takes low for ball 1. Coming up tonight, Geico Sports Night after the post game. Old photo week. Hi, Doug. Good to see you. Molina chases the breaking ball, and it's 1-1. Well, you know, there's been talk on the subject of protecting the relief pitchers' arms. Been talk about expanding rosters, and I know it's something that Terry Collins has talked about, and it's been talk about adding a couple of extra roster spots, but maybe only having 25 players active for each game, and that would go to what you're talking about, the A squad and the B squad.
Yeah, that would give some guys the night off. They'd be here at the ball game, and they wouldn't be suited. They'd be sitting in the clubhouse, hopefully helping maybe the video guy or whatever do some things that might help the team on the field.
I mean, it's kind of what hockey does, right?
Yeah,
you have
of course.
Healthy scratches every every coach has to choose a certain number of players from the guys on his roster to be active that night. And the way the game has changed, not only in terms of the number of innings the starters are pitching and the consequent greater number of innings the relievers are pitching, but also because of travel and the condensed nature of the schedule and the elimination of amphetamines several years ago. It's really changed the nature of the burden on everybody.
That's right. Well, travel is just egregious. What the Mets have to do on that Sunday night against the Nationals and then play a day game in Cincinnati is just egregious. If Greg Popovich was a manager in Major League Baseball, he wouldn't take any of his good players to Cincinnati and play the B squad.
Well, look, I
understand
the circumstances that Monday is a Labor Day game, and so the Reds schedule a 1 o'clock game.
I understand that too.
And that ESPN has the right to take any Sunday game they want and move it to Sunday night. That's fine. But then Major League Baseball should be able to say to the Reds, move the game to 4 o'clock. I don't think there should be any problem with that.
Yeah, that's right.
If you're going to burden a team by having them play the Sunday night game, then don't overburden them by having them play a 1 o'clock game in another city the next day.
Yeah, and I don't think it would hurt the fan base in Cincinnati.
No.
They'd be happy to come to a 4 o'clock game too. Barbecue at 12, baseball at 4.
And let's be honest, the Reds, how many people are actually coming to the game anyway?
They're playing better, Gary.
Yeah, I know. But you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
That Major League Baseball absolutely should have done that. And I don't know why they haven't. Pulled foul by Molina. But those are all things, talking about roster size, talking about travel conditions. Those are all things that the players should be talking about in the new collective bargaining agreement that is coming up this winter. And it seems as though every time we go through this, it's paid lip service, but they don't do anything about it.
They don't do anything about it because the money is so huge that everyone gets blinded by that. So the things we find.
Hit sharply. Rivera can't get it. Goes into right field. Jerko is waved to him. He'll score without a throw. And it's 8-1 St. Louis. Molina's third hit of the night.
I mean, it's pretty obvious when you watch Yadier Molina hit. He is just trying to hit bullets to the right side. He hit a couple early that Kelly Johnson made some good plays on. Big leg kick, ball away. If you're going to pitch Yadier Molina, you have to do two things. You have to pitch him in hard with sinking fastballs to get him to pull, and breaking balls in the dirt. Mets haven't been able to do that in this game.
Or this season. Molina's now 10 for 18 against the Mets this year. There's Peralta with 2 men on. And there's nobody behind Robles. This is his inning to finish no matter what happens here. And Mets just can't afford to spend another arm. Every time we have this conversation about what needs to be done to make it better for the players so they can have more rest and not get worn down and talk about travel and things like that.
Well, which ultimately is better for the fan.
Well, but that's the thing. There's a certain segment of the fans that says, what are you whining about? Why? I don't really care. These guys are paid an enormous amount of money. And if you have to play a night game in one city and a day game in another city the next day, too bad. But I think what they don't realize is that those things would make it a better game. It would make the quality of play better and make it better for fans.
Of course. Two things, fans.
Double play ball and the turn by Rivera that ends the inning.
Is that you'll have a better game instead 0-0 after 5, and it'll reduce injuries to those players that you want to see every day.
We go to the 9th. It's been all Cardinals, 8-1. As SNY's NFL insider Ralph Vacchiano discusses the Josh Brown suspension, Victor Cruz's status, and the struggling offensive line on the Giants Goal Line podcast. Only on SNY.TV, your online home of all things New York sports. Ninth inning and the final boss is in.
Yes, he is. What a great nickname, by the way. Mets saw O as the closer in New York, and he was very impressive. 95 plus with a razor blade slider.
Here in a non-save situation, faces Alejandro De Aza and gets the first fastball in for a strike. De Aza came in the second inning when Jay Bruce was removed with a cramp in his calf, and we'll hear more about that after the game, I'm sure. De Aza grounds one right at the second baseman. Jerko makes the play, 1 out of the ninth. So unless the Mets have a tremendous rally in them, they'll fall back to 4.5 behind St. Louis in the wild card. Miami won tonight. They'll stay a game and a half behind. Pittsburgh lost. They'll fall 3.5 back.
And the Mets again will be at the 500 mark.
Cardinals with 19 hits tonight. Most the Mets have allowed in a game this season. Here's James Loney, who's 0 for 3. Fastball in for a strike. Carlos Martinez went 8. A lot of run on 4 hits, 3 walks, 5 strikeouts, 97 pitches, in line for his 12th win of the year.
O has to be very sneaky to the hitters. I haven't been able to talk to the Mets hitters about him yet, but I know he throws 95, 96, which is hard. But the swings they get off him, like that swing from Loney, tell me that they don't pick it up as well.
O was a star in his native South Korea, then in Japan, and now at age 34, a rookie in the major leagues. He was not the closer when the year began. That was Trevor Rosenthal's job. Trickled toward the middle, and Jerko to his right makes the play, 2 out. But Rosenthal was awful.
Yeah.
And then lost his closer's job and ultimately landed on the disabled list. Hoping to come back before the end of the year, but it's looking less likely all the time.
Rosenthal had 93 saves, so he played a big part in that 100-win team last year for the Cardinals. But looks like he's in that position now. What's his other nickname? Final boss and what? Something Buddha?
Stone Buddha. As Dribble Cabrera, who's driven to the only Met run tonight with a double back in the second. With the Mets down to their final out, he takes a fastball for a strike. Outside 1-1. Red Sox lost tonight 11 to Tampa Bay on a walk-off error. So with the Red Sox and Toronto both losing, they stay tied, and the Orioles, who won, are just a game behind. Breaking ball hit down the left field line, and that goes foul. And now the Mets are down to their final strike. Giants and Dodgers in the showdown out west. No score in the 4th. Johnny Cueto against Rich Hill, with the Dodgers 2 games in front starting the night. So the Mets are going to have to win tomorrow night with Seth Lugo against Adam Wainwright to salvage a 500 road trip.
If Bruce's calf is serious, you think you see Mr. Conforto?
That's a good question. I would have to assume so, as well as he's been raking. But you know, the Mets made it sound when Bruce came out of the game like it was not a big deal, calling it a precautionary move with a cramp in his calf. But we'll see. One-two coming, and Cabrera again just gets a piece. Phillies won tonight. They beat the White Sox 5-3. Jared Eichhoff got his 9th win.
Boy, what a good year he's had. You know, of all the young pitchers there, he stayed in the rotation all year long.
Well, with Nola and Eflin out for the year now, he's become the stalwart. 1-2 coming, and it's pulled on the ground. Jerko with all 3 assists in the 9th inning, and the Cardinals put the wrap on this one as Jacob deGrom takes it on the chin for the 2nd straight start. The Cardinals bang out 19 hits and even up the series with an 8-1 win.
You know, Gary, it's one of those games where your guy had to be better than their guy. Martinez was better than deGrom. deGrom has 2 starts in a row where he's given up 25 hits, and he was really hit around today by the Cardinals.
So the Mets fall back to the 500 mark for the season. They fall back to 4.5 games behind the Cardinals for the 2nd wild card spot, and it sets up a rubber game tomorrow night with Seth Lugo on the hill trying to